Hello, how you doing? This is our third segment of the philosophy of Gabriel. Today's date is November 7th, 2014, segment 3. And the first thing we're going to start off with today is United States culture spreading around the world. The funniest country that does not like American influence in their country is the French. Believe it or not, the French, after we saved their butts in 2 world wars, they actually have a law where only 80% of their television shows can be American. The other 20% have to be from France. So that means 80% of our culture is already, I don't like to say invaded, but influenced that country. I watch a lot of tennis, and tennis is a worldwide sport, and you can see it in every country. In China, you know, you ask them, what do you like to do, and they'll say, oh, I love Twitter, and I love Facebook. 2 American inventions. They all do that. Okay, yeah, send some comments in, some more examples of United States culture spreading across the world, even in Russia. Oh yeah, in every airport in the world, even China and Mongolia, the air traffic controllers have to speak English, and all the pilots have to know English too around the world. Yeah, the French. Here's another thing about the French. They're real funny. They have thing with Hawkeye in tennis now, where the camera, wherever it is, takes a picture of the ball as it's going down, and if it even touches the line a little bit, you could tell it's real small amounts, and it's never wrong, you know, because it's electronic. Because it's an American invention, the French, at the French Open, they might do it at some other ones in France, other tournaments, but they will not use Hawkeye. When there's a dispute whether the ball hit the line or not, they make the umpire, which is way up in his seat, or her in her seat, come down the steps, go all the way over to the side, and look down for a smudge. They're actually looking down for a smudge on the clay. If the smudge went and touched the white line. Is that crazy or what? Oh god. It's just ridiculous. Now, I know they gave us the Statue of Liberty and helped us out during the Revolutionary War, but during the Nixon administration, when Nixon went off the gold standard, do you know why? Have you ever heard why he went off the gold standard? It was because France started piling up and collecting as much paper, United States paper money, as they could, just billions of dollars in cash. Then all of a sudden, they says, we're turning in all this cash for gold because $1 of the money is supposed to be backed by $1 worth of gold. So we had to give them all this gold and all this, and it was like draining the whole country of gold. And that's why Nixon really didn't have a choice. He went off the gold standard. Unbelievable. Yeah, even in the Middle East, like them uprisings they had in the Middle East, the way they connected with their uprising was Facebook and Twitter. Imagine that. That's funny. In the last 200 years, let me adjust this here. In the last 200 years, what country do you think had all the inventions for the last 200 years? I mean, just by studying a little bit, it's got to be America, 90%. I mean, everything of importance to humankind in the last 200 years was invented here. Little do people know the steam engine was invented in England, and antibiotics, they came across that in France. Thank you, the French people. And geez, I always forget words. Well, let's see. I can't figure that one. All right. Yeah. In China wants to become a major tennis site, and they built these huge stadiums for tennis, and even on a night match, on a final, there's hardly anybody in the stands. I don't know, but at least they're nice and big and pretty, you know. I know I refer to tennis a lot. You know why? Because that's a world sport. And any parents or grandparents that have an 8-year-old, you must put them into tennis training to see if they like it, first of all, and see if they're show any promise. I mean, it's the only sport where women can become millionaires. Like the last U.S. Open, the first place, which was Serena Williams, $3 million for like an hour and a half on the court, and the runner-up, Caroline Wozniacki, got $101.5 million, and then Serena got $3 million. That's just one tournament. There's 4 majors: Wimbledon, of course, U.S. Open, French Open, and Australian Open. And there's a lot of other tournaments too that give out good money. This is why the top 50 women players, ranked from 1 to 50, they're all millionaires, without a doubt. Not only do they get money on the tournaments, but they get endorsements. They get money for wearing an emblem on their hat of the country. Everybody that has their bags that the tennis rackets go in, everybody carries Wilson. So you know Wilson is giving them a lot of money just to have them bags. I saw in the U.S. Open, always in Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, every year there's always a surprise that comes out in the women's. Somebody that a little girl, maybe they're usually like 15, 16, 17. They come out of nowhere. You never heard them before, and they start knocking down major players in the top 10 in the world. And let me see. The time's still going on. And the one, I forgot, her last name started with a C. She was ranked 2025 in the world. And already she tours around the world in juniors. And when she qualifies on the tiny tournaments to get into the big majors, she's already a millionaire. Right, 2025, and she has enough money to live well and her family well, and pay for coaches and her entourage and stuff. Every year she was beating like big players. She's only 15. She was beating Maria Sharapova, Makarova, Russian tennis, especially on the women's side. I remember in the 90s when Serena Williams and Venus Williams were like dominant, and then all of a sudden all these Russians start showing up. And a lot of Russians, their last name ends in Ova. And Serena and their sister, they called it the Ova invasion. You got Sharapova, you got Makarova. In Russia, a lot of people's names end with Ova, you know. And you know why that is? In 1990, remember the communists countries were falling, and then the communism in Russia itself fell, and it broke up into all its minor states like Ukraine and Pakistan and stuff. Who was it? Was it Yeltsin? Yeah, Yeltsin was the Democratic elected president, and he loved tennis. So when he became president, he says, "Hey, let's get some tennis academies in Russia, so we can have a lot of our people be on the worldwide tour for tennis, male and female." It was funny, you know, they started out. It takes time to build tennis courts. You got hard courts, you got clay courts, and you got grass courts, Wimbledon, of course. And they had practically no tennis courts in the country, right? So you know what they started practicing on until they get some tennis courts and tennis academies built? They were practicing on Olympic pools emptied. Nothing in them, and that's where they practice in Russia and Serbia. Serbia is very close to it. For a little country like Serbia, they have the three best players in the world: Novak Djokovic, Jelena, and one other, I can't remember her name. But they're like gods in that country. Like, Serbia is even smaller than New Jersey, you know? Okay. Do y'all have a problem with death? I've always had a problem with death. It's just, I don't know, I can't accept it, you know? It just seems like such a waste, especially like cancer and a disease. In nature, it's every animal and human or ant or the smallest bacteria stuff. Life is to exist and reproduce, right? So I can't understand it. Even things that use other living things as a host, like bacteria, you know, all the things that can kill you, and even cancer cells. I just don't understand, when they're destroying the host, the human body, if the human body dies, they die too. So, geez, I just can't understand. Another thing I have a problem with is evolution. You know, Darwin's theory and stuff like that. And there had to be evolution, right? But they always talked about one animal for over millions of years, or even thousands of years, will progress and slowly change into another animal, right? The perfect example is the original elephant animals millions of years ago that spread, and became the woolly mammoth, and another one, I can't remember the name, the Indian elephant. And they showed how in the beginning the animal just had a short little trunk. There's like a pig, I don't know if it's in Asia or South America, that has like a short little trunk, just like maybe about 6 inches long. But you could see it's got potential further down the line in evolution where that'll grow into a trunk. So I saw in this diagram one time, they showed how elephants evolved from just having an 8-inch trunk, and then for a million years having a 2-foot trunk, and then another million having a 6-foot trunk, and on and on. Okay, but I never see these spines they dig up where it shows the middle ground animals in the middle when they're progressing from one animal to another. Their final, the way elephants and woolly mammoths and Indian elephants are now. It's just, I don't know, something's wrong with that. I don't know, yeah, since everything we talked on tonight, it's our third segment, yeah, please send comments, please watch and tell your friends about it, and and when you go into the site, hit like for me if you could, and then hit subscribe and leave comments. Hopefully you'll get a good following, you know. I try to talk a little bit about everything, you know, but if I say a lot, I'm just getting used to it. It's our only our third segment, you know. But maybe we'll get thousands of followers. You never know. Well, I can't understand why the Navy and the Marines, for the past 80 years, call their life jackets, their life preservers, a Mae West. I don't understand that. Why do they call it a Mae West? I don't understand that. Okay, we talked a little about this before. The main things that there's trouble in our society. The elections are, I mean, not the elections, the courts. I just can't believe the courts are operated this way. Okay, you have a jury, right? Okay, and then the case goes to the jury. And then the judge gives them a lecture on their instructions. And sometimes the judges will just say, you have to vote this way, you have to vote this way, because the law says it. And he's practically, that's like telling the jury, the 12 people in the jury, well, we knew he was innocent, but in my opinion, the evidence didn't say he wasn't. That's jury tampering right there. Then sometimes you have a foreman, he'll bully all the people, too, you know. And the worst thing is the open vote. I mean, it's been a storyline in movies, it's been a storyline in shows forever. The open vote, right? Say there's a guy on trial for murder, just a witness, no other evidence at all. And there's one holdout, and the other 11 people said, yeah, he's guilty. And there's one holdout. They will bully that person for being a holdout relentlessly. I see one time there was a big case down in Florida, national case, you guys probably guess what it was. And they bullied the heck out of her. And God forbid if you have jury and deliberation on a holiday weekend, and it's coming up to a holiday weekend, they will actually want to get the vote over and try to give this last holdout a hard time, because it's a holiday weekend coming up. Can you believe that? Now this is how it should be. Well, yeah, send some comments, see if you agree with me, and probably some don't agree with me. It should be a private vote, don't you think? There should be a box. You write innocent or guilty or undecided, and you put it in the box, and then the jury foreman, you know, collects everything in the box and gets the vote that way. And you don't put your name on it. It's just it's a secret vote. Wouldn't that be a lot fairer to people? I mean, I just don't understand that. And they say our system is the greatest system in the world, but the union's been fighting over that secret vote for a long time. I mean, Anybody doesn't want a secret vote, they're worried about something. Oh, the other thing about society is prescriptions. I mean, it is totally crazy, the signatures that these doctors do, and a pharmacist has to read that stuff and get the amount right, the medication itself, if it's a high dose or lower dose, and you got to depend on this scribble. Do pharmacists and pharmacist assistants go to school to try to recognize all these doctors scribble on there? Back's hurt. It's unbelievable. It's getting better now. I noticed that some prescriptions, they're starting to send on the computer right to the pharmacy, so there's no doubt. But there's still some, they write a prescription on that piece of paper, and there has to be people that overdosed. The doctor, with the scribble there, and the pharmacist getting it wrong, no fault of the pharmacist. That's just a crazy system, don't you think? Oh, God. Oh, and another one. This is crazy, too. Doctors, they got to go to school a long time. A long time. God bless them. And then they go to residency in a hospital, right? On average, they work 70 and 80-hour weeks. A lot of times they just sleep wherever they can catch some Z's in the hospital on a cot or a room nobody's in it, And this person is supposed to be like taking care of you, ordering the stuff in intravenous or a shot or medication, and they're half like awake. How is that? I mean, there's something wrong with that. They should have doctors get plenty of rest at home while they're in their residency. When you work an 80-hour week, no way are you getting enough rest. No way. And do you want some resident, and it's almost a doctor, half dead, do you want him taking care of you and making decisions that could kill you? I mean, that's crazy. Okay. It's amazing how technology has come so far, and just in my lifetime. I can remember, do you remember party lines? You get on the phone, if there was somebody else in line, you couldn't make a call. There was no 911 in the days, in the 60s, the 70s. That's crazy. See, now, if people back in the 60s, if you showed them what the cell phones could do now, they would think you're from another planet, another galaxy. Just amazing. What was it? It was in 1903, 110 years ago, that the Wright brothers flew under a powered machine, gasoline engine, which was a new invention in itself, because you can't get a steam engine on one of their light. They were like a kite, and the first things. And look at what flies now. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing just since World War II how advanced they are. Just amazing. Oh, and I have a solution to these planes that are disappearing, like the one that disappeared in the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean, there's nothing there. There's a base there that England owns on an island, Delwega. I think this is the second, Delwega. I know it's a Spanish name, but the English own it, and the Americans use it a lot for their B-52s and the B-2 and B-1. They have their strikes in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria there on the border. That's nuts. I knew as soon as the American troops left Iraq, that would start up. Jeez. I wish they'd get our troops out of Afghanistan, because everybody knows when you're in a war and the troops that are left behind to cover most of the force leaving, they have to like provide security. What's the name for that? Yeah, somebody comment on the name of that. They're protecting and they're getting killed by soldiers that are supposed to be on their side. The stupid press, they call it the blue on green violence. Unbelievable. And they'll just turn on the Americans and shoot them. It happens all the time. The Marines, I saw one on the military channel. I saw Marines, and they cleared some houses in Afghanistan. And it was a Marine platoon, and they always had one Afghan regular army person with them. And you never knew if this guy was going to turn on you or not and shoot you. So they had to watch him real close. But when they were going into buildings to clear them, they'd always send him in first. So if somebody was going to get shot, it was him first, you know. They would even kick him in the rear to get him in the door. Such is war. Jeez, I wish there was no war. You know, the women out there are like this. I believe that if a woman had been, for the last 3,000 years, every king, emperor, pharaoh, if all these people, these leaders had been women of all these countries and empires and stuff, there would have hardly been any war. Because guys, men, especially back in the day, and even now, honor and chivalry means so much to them. Okay, it's good to be honorable and have chivalry, but do you know how much honor and chivalry, how many wars that has started, and how many men have died over that? Now, I'm not saying women think less of honor and chivalry, but I don't know. I think they would have been better leaders. Now, can you think for like last 5,000 years, all the people that died in wars? Imagine if all the people hadn't died in all these wars. There could have been one guy that got killed in a battle in Rome 2,000 years ago. And his ancestors could have, even 2,000 years later, been the one that that invented cold fusion, or a rocket that can go light speed, or he might have been a scientist that eliminated cancer, no cancer at all. Just think of all the people that died in wars, what they could have been, or what their ancestors could have been. Imagine that. Jeez. Stalin. A lot of people say he was almost as bad as Hitler. You know what he used to do to the military? Because he had no schooling himself, right? He got to be there by killing his competition, you know, when Lenin died. But about every 5 years, he would do a purging to the military. And what he would do is he would gather up all the officers, which are the cream of society. I mean, they are, but they're the most dangerous thing to Stalin, you know. And he would have thousands and thousands killed, because that's how paranoid he was that he would lose his power. Unbelievable, huh? He did the same thing in Poland during World War II, and they even found I think it was 32,000 officers of the Polish army Because this is another thing that bothers me. World War II supposedly started when Germany invaded Poland, right? But everybody knows Germany took the eastern part of Poland, and Russia took the western part. No, Russia took the eastern part, and Germany took the western part. Split the country in half, and then England and France declared war on Germany. But I never hear about Russia. They took half the country themselves too. I mean, well, anyway, on their section of Poland, Stalin ordered 32,000 officers of the military and the Navy, if Poland had a Navy back then, killed. And they were buried somewhere on the Polish-Russian frontier. And anyway, the Germans found this mass burial of these thousands and 32,000 officers, and they were digging them up. And back then, Hitler and the Germans didn't want no international press seeing what they were doing. But for this, they invited the international press in to see them digging up all these bodies and the officers' uniforms and stuff. And then they said, well, you could tell the Russians did this. Immediately, Stalin says, no, the Germans did that. They murdered 32,000 officers of the Polish army. Well, you all know Stalin did it. He was afraid of Poland's officers, because going back to the getting killed in war thing, all the officers, the cream of society, could have went on to be great leaders and invent things long before they were invented in the future, or their, like I said, or their offspring. It's just, I just can't believe it. Have you ever read about, in both wars, World War I and World War II, the Russian and German front? It was like 1,000 miles long, from north to south, and especially in World War II. But there was a lot millions in World War I. It was nothing to have a battle where there'd be 3 million Russians and 2 million Germans having that battle. Can you imagine that? 3 million men against like 2 million men, and it was nothing to have 100,000, 200,000 killed in one day on one side or the other. To give you a comparison, Iwo Jima in the Pacific, when the Japanese held that island and the American Marines invaded it, well, there was like about 30,000 Japanese on the island dug in, and we invaded with about 60,000 Marines. That's 60,000 against 30,000. Compare that to 3 million against 2 million. Unbelievable, the scale and the human suffering that went on that front. I'm not saying no less against our great Marines. I hate when they would. Have you ever seen, like, I'm sure you've seen World War II documentaries where you get off the landing craft and they get mowed down by machine guns and stuff? I hated that. I hate all war. I hate death. Death bothers me. It's so... Well, quantum theory and quantum mechanics says they did the math and they says everybody has a soul. So I think they're probably right. You know, it's good to see scientists back up with, I've known already, that, you know, there is God and Jesus and our Savior and Mother Mary and Angel Gabriel. I love Bible stories. A relative of mine, when she was growing up, she didn't hear no Bible stories. I mean, it's like they weren't allowed. And I remember, like, every Easter, I would ask her, well, what is Easter? Why do we have Easter? She had no clue. And I try to tell her every Easter, it's because that's when Jesus died and was resurrected. You know, Good Friday, the crucifixion, and Sunday, the resurrection. She had no clue. She just thought it was about bunny rabbits and candy and eggs. Can you believe that? Yeah, send in some comments about everything I'm talking about, and please, if you don't agree about what I'm talking about, please send it in. Whether you agree or don't agree, you know, all is good. The pluses, the minuses. If you want to call me a jerk, yeah, no foul language though. I don't know. When people say the F word in every sentence, I think it like makes them sound like gutter trash. You know, it's just, I don't know. They say it's just the word, the four-letter words that we don't like. The F word, the F-bomb. I don't know. It just makes you look like a lower class of society. Not that there should not be lower classes in society. I just don't understand that. And these elections in the United States, where they say, oh, we need the votes of the middle class. Now, I thought that's why we had a revolution and left England. To stop that. Because in England, a lot of the caste system in England, where you were born into one section of society, you were condemned to be in that section and you couldn't go no further. You know, like, look at Obama, President Obama. I mean, and other presidents. I mean, poor when they were born, had a hard upbringing, like in the 30s during the Depression. But anybody born, I don't care if they're born to the poorest parents in the world or the richest, they all have an equal chance to become president. Now, that was impossible in England back then. That's why we had a revolution. You know? So we wouldn't have a caste system. But the elections now, when they say, oh, we must get the votes of the middle class. The middle class, they say, is making like between $50,000 a year and $200,000 a year. So that means if you make under $50,000, you're second class, you're below middle class. Is that right? That is not right. There should be no class. You shouldn't say there's a middle class. I used to be into politics a lot. For the past 2 years, almost exactly 2 years, because we just had election day. I gave up on politics. I didn't even watch the national news. A lot of my friends on Facebook are into politics. I didn't make no comments in there anymore or leave my own posts. Just, I was sick of it. It was sickening. I don't know. Alright, we talked about the 3 things in society that I can't believe that are so important. And yet, it goes on. And the only one that's really changing I saw is the prescriptions. The doctors, when they're doing a residency, as far as I know, they're all still walking half asleep, you know. And the jury system, they'll never have a secret vote. All the other jurors can intimidate the one holdout in a murder case. And so, you know, like I said before, on a holiday, hey, why don't you change your vote from innocent to guilty so we can get out of here? Can you imagine people saying that? That big case in Florida a couple of years ago, they were actually wanting to get a vote over with so they can get out of the hotel if they're sequestered and go home. And a person's life is on that decision, and they can't wait to go home. That is crazy. I guess that's going to be it. Let's see here. Wow, we were on 40 minutes. Yeah, please watch. Or even watch a little bit. There's 3 segments, 1, 2, and 3. We just did 3 now. And please hit like. Please hit subscribe. And please leave a comment. And above all, share it with your families, your friends. You know how it has the share in the bottom, share on Facebook, all your friends with it, Twitter, or on email or whatever. That would help a lot. I hope it was a good show. It's only our 3rd one, but we're trying. We want guests too. And even if people can't be on the show physically, a call-in guest would be great. I mean, national news shows do that all the time. I can't wait the first time I'll put the speakerphone like right here and have our conversation, you know, on the show. And I think that would be pretty neat. But a live guest, like sitting here right next to me, would probably be better, right? But thanks for viewing, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.